Auzubillahi minash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. I hope all of you are fine, and I hope that your families they are fine as well. Due to all this alarming situation, we have to continue our labs using online platforms through video recording or through the Microsoft Team. Due to a gap of many days, we first let's revise what we have done earlier, starting from the lab 1 till the last lab, which we have done, lab 4, object based nearest neighbor classification, that we have performed last time we have met. Now basically we started from the first lab and we classified, that is image classification. We performed supervised classification on a high resolution data. After performing the supervised classification on a high resolution data, we encountered various problems, and we wrote a report on various problems: spectral mixing, different classes they were mixing due to spectral variability. All these issues we have faced. Now the next phase was to perform object-based classification on high resolution data. So for that purpose we have used eCognition software, and in the next phase we got an introduction of eCognition, and later we performed image segmentation, and then we have performed image classification, in which we have used nearest neighbor classification, the last lab. Now for today's lab, what we are going to do is to classify our high resolution image using rule based classification. So let's recap first the first 4 labs which we have done. I have opened the files here. First we have the exercise that was to perform pixel based classification on high resolution image, in which we performed the supervised classification, and as a result of that classification we have multiple problem, spectral variability and other issues. What we wrote in that report, when we have performed the pixel based classification on high resolution data, we used this methodology. We inputted our study area image, we used the signature editor, we took signatures, and then we have performed supervised classification using maximum likelihood or other algorithm, and at the end we have the output classified image, and which we have later on post process in ArcMap, and we generated a final classified map. And more important thing, the conclusion of that lab was where a variety of homogeneous and heterogeneous objects, they were present in very small area, and urban features of variable size, shape, they were identified. The issue that was finally what we have concluded in that lab, that this technique produces non-homogeneous classes due to internal class spectral variability. What does this statement meant? We have discussed in the first lab that there are a lot of spectral variation within a same class. For example, if there is a roof, so there is a lot of spectral variability, there is a lot of DN values changing within a roof, that is meant by spectral variability. So due to this factor, it is producing non-homogeneous classes, that a single roof, it can be it is giving an output of multiple. For example, a roof it is misclassified in shadow, a shadow is misclassified in roof. These type of problem we have encountered. The next phase what we have done was our next lab, that was introduction to eCognition software. We got a basic introduction to eCognition software and how to start this software. We have used file toolbar, view settings toolbar, zooming functions, and how to create a new project. We have learned how to later rename these bands, layer 1, 2, 3, 4, subsetting in image, and we have performed some basic visual image interpretation technique, basic panning, zoom in, zoom out, basic tools in the first lab. After that, what we have done is performed image segmentation. That was very important lab. We have spent almost 2 to 3 labs discussing image segmentation in detail. What was image segmentation? We have already discussed it, that if you have an image, you segment it or divide it into small objects, right, and later on classify these objects and produce a classified image, right. So when we are dealing with high resolution data, Later, we are using eCognition software. We performed image segmentation technique on high resolution data. We created a new project. We imported the study area image. We renamed some layers, and then we have executed segmentation algorithm in which four algorithms they were common. The first was chessboard, quad tree, multi-resolution segmentation, and contrast split segmentation. Now, what important thing was chessboard segmentation. First one, chessboard segmentation. It has a major drawback that it divides all your image into equal size square. So that has less practicality because we cannot differentiate objects. A roof, it may be covered in one, a building may be covered in one object, or it may be covered in two, depending upon the size we have set. Next, we have executed the quad tree segmentation. So this segmentation technique, it segments the image on the basis of similarity of spectral responses. The region in image where the spectral responses they were similar, so the large segments were formed, and in this similar region we have small segments were formed. One important thing, we have used the scale factors that defines the size of the objects. We have discussed all this in detail. Now, scale factor, it actually determines how much heterogeneity you allow in an object, right? So if you have scale value, higher value, for example, if you have 250, so that allows a large object to be formed and large heterogeneity is included in each object. Mixture or number of classes are more in single object. The smaller the scale value, the more refined objects they are formed, and instead of homogeneity, we are moving towards the heterogeneity by reducing the scale values. Then we executed the multi-resolution segmentation. That was very important technique, and in this technique we assigned shape and scale some values and compactness some values. If you remember, we have performed a quiz by changing the shape from 0.4 to 0.8 and compactness to from 0.2 to 0.8, and we have observed in the lab that how the building roof that is changing. Now, after that, we have the spectral difference segmentation. Now, this technique that was very important, the last one, in which we at the result of this technique, clear segments they were formed between houses, shadows, vegetation, and roads. So that was more productive technique. Uh, and this was all from the segmentation section. And the last lab after that, we performed the object based nearest neighbor classification. What we have done in that lab is to open our study area image in eCognition. Then we have run the segmentation, multi-resolution segmentation. One important thing we discussed in the lab was, in order to perform multi-resolution segmentation, we multi-resolution spectral difference segmentation, we need to have a segmentation in process. Then we defined the number of classes in the class hierarchy. After performing this, we selected some samples, right? And we, after selecting some sample, in some cases we selected one, in some cases we selected multiple samples, and by using selecting the sample this, we selected some sample, and we then later on we applied the standard NN to the classes. We have already discussed in very detail about how this standard NN applies. And once we performed all that, we got a classified image, right? After the classified image, which we have opened in ArcMap, we have spent, I think, 2 labs on this image segmentation technique, and this 2 labs on object based NN. Now, after that, the output in ArcMap, we post processed that output image, and we generated a classified map. We used the dissolve option that was used to merge the classes, and at the end we generated an output image. So this was all from the previous labs which we have revised. Now for today's lab, as you have discussed or seen your lectures, you have studied rule-based classification. For today's lab, we will be performing rule-based classification, that is to apply single or multiple set of rule and classify your image. Thank you. Now for today's lab, that is rule-based classification using eCognition opening. Okay, important thing, please open your PDF files which will be shared with you in on LMS as well as on the Microsoft team. So in rule-based classification, what we usually do is we apply a single or multiple set of rules to enhance classification. As you have seen in the last lab, object-based classification, almost more than 80 to 90% results, they were accurate, but still there were some problems. So now, in order to remove those problems and enhance our accuracy, we are using rule-based classification. So as the first step of this tutorial is to open eCognition software, which we have opened now. The next step is to open the study area image in eCognition. Okay, click on create project and select your study area image by browsing to your folder where your data has been placed. Now this study area final image, I will provide you with the link on LMS or on Microsoft team. You can download this file. Okay, once you select it, you have to click OK. Now the first thing, you have layers, right? So rename these layers by double clicking, right double click, rename it as blue, rename it as green, rename the third layer as red, and the fourth layer as NIR, near infrared. Okay, there is no need to subset now. We'll move on with this image and click OK. Now this is our study area image which we have used in the lab as well. There are a lot of features: building, water bodies, parking lots, and various spectral variability can be observed, and there are some other objects as well, small objects. So this is a high resolution image. So next what we have to do is to run segmentation in the process tree, that is the multi-resolution segmentation, and we have to assign the weight to NIR band, that is 2. You have screenshot available in your PDF. We will follow this screenshot and go to the process, select the process tree. In this process tree, let's and new execute child process. Okay, insert a child and let's run multi-resolution segmentation. So in this drop down, click multi-resolution segmentation. Right now, the important thing is to assign NIR the band to. Why we are assigning near infrared value weightage 2? The reason for this, now why we are assigning NIR weightage 2? Because if we are assigning some layer more weight, so that it means we will be using later on NIR layer for segmenting or for classifying the image. We will segment the objects first, then based on each object we will specify a rule based on the NIR value. Okay, once you have done this, now you have scale parameter of 70, shape and compactness 0.4 and 0.6. So select the scale parameter of 70. If you will select 10, it will produce objects of very small size, and select the shape 0.4 and compactness 0.6, 0.4 and select compactness 0.6. Okay, once you have done this, now you have to click execute it. Now it will take a minute or two to execute this segmentation. Okay, meanwhile this is executed, we will have some output like this. We will see it. Then the next phase is to define the number of classes in class hierarchy, which we have performed in the object-based NN method. So we have 7 classes over here. we will make all these classes in here classification. Okay, we must wait till it is completed and then continue. Okay, once this segmentation process is run completed, you may see output like this, right? So here you can see variety of objects they are formed. You can click on any object, view its properties, etc. Okay, next phase what we have to do is to define the classes in class hierarchy. So you have to go to classification, class hierarchy, and create the classes. The first class we have of bare land, we rename it as bare land, assign it the same color which we are using PDF, and parent class for display new class because it is not being derived from any other class. So we have selected new class and click OK. The next one is to buildings with the red color. We have insert class buildings, assign its red color or any color of your choice, new class, okay. And the next one is parking lots with the white color. We have to insert, click on parking lots and select the white color for this. Declare it as new class and click OK. Now moving on, we have the roads with the gray color. Insert class, rename it as roads with grayish color or this one. New class and OK. The next one is shadow of black color. Shadow, this is of black color, rename it as new class and OK. Now next one, vegetation. Now it is of green color, or you can assign color of your choice, declare it as new and click OK. Okay, now last one, that is water. Insert class water, this is of blue color, declare it as new class and click OK. Now we have created a class hierarchy here. Now moving on, what we have to do is to go to the toolbar on the top tools option and select the feature view. Okay, here we have tools and here we have feature view. Click on the feature view. You will have this type of window open. In some cases it may be on this side, you have to drag it to the display. Now in this feature view, we will be discussing why we are going to use this feature view. There is option of arithmetic feature and relational feature. In object feature, right, we have this layer value we have customized. In the customized section we have arithmetic feature and relational feature. Now in ADAS Imagine we have used, or in ArcMap or in QGIS we used a model maker or a raster calculator to create NDVI or some vegetation index. In eCognition, once you have to create some rationing technique like ADAS, in ADAS Imagine you created NDVI, so you have to use this create new arithmetic feature. So once you have selected this arithmetic feature, this type of window is going to open. Now you have to rename this feature name as NDVI. We are going to create NDVI, normalized difference vegetation index, which we have created already in ADAS. Now in NDVI we know the formula, that is near infrared minus red divided by near infrared plus red. So we will apply the same formula over here, but where to get the bands, right? So you have in layer value you have all these bands. In the layer value you have to click mean, right, and you have to select this NIR, but before select the bracket so that the formula is correct. You have to select this mean NIR, select the minus sign, red bracket close divided by near infrared. Okay, select the bracket over here, near infrared plus red bracket close. Now once you are okay, you have to click image object information. You can click it from here or you can click it from here. So this type of window is going to appear. This is your image object information. I have this small object selected over here at this corner, so it is displaying the information of this small object. If you can select any other object, so it will give you the information. For example, NDVI values 0.46, blue, green, near infrared, and red values, number of pixels they are covered. So this tool, it provides you all the available information, spectral information or the number of pixels for whatever object you are going to select, right? Now moving on, next phase is to select the option image object information, which we have already done. Now right click and select feature to display. We will select feature to display. We have selected this object first, its spectral information is available over here, and we will select the feature to display by using here. You can right click on any open white space, click this select features to display. This window is going to open. Okay, once you have done this, now the next phase is to choose the option from customized NDVI, and from layer value we have to choose mean. Object customize, we have to choose NDVI, and layer value we have to choose the mean. You can select all this and click OK. Right, once you have done this, the next is to check the lowest and highest value of NDVI from the image to define the range of the or the result of the rule set. This is important to understand that if you are going to develop a rule, for example, you classified an image in ADAS Imagine, you have performed NDVI in ADAS Imagine, and the output was in -1 to 1. In that case, you noted that negative values, they correspond to water. So what you did was you went to the arc map and you reclassified the negative values. You used the extract by attribute tool and you extracted the negative values, and we have seen in the labs that water was extracted successfully. Now similarly, this is an example of developing a rule. You can develop a rule based on this information or based on this NDVI information, right? So we have to note what is the lowest and the highest value of NDVI from the image to define the range, right? So for example, if you have an object of vegetation, you have to see what vegetation values are lowest and highest. You have to click on various pixels, various objects, and note down their values, right? So in my case, these values, they were ranging from for example 0.17 to 0.55. So I have to define a rule, right? So how we will define a rule? This information, first of all, by clicking various objects, note down what is the lowest value and note down what is the highest value. Now we have to execute the rule set from the process tree, right? We have the process tree over here. We will execute rule set, right? You can insert child, right, and execute the rule set from here by following this algorithm. This is important to assign the class. Algorithm is to rule set basic classification assign class, right? And you have to define a threshold and the use class vegetation. Now here you have to define your class, that is vegetation. Here you have to define the threshold conditions, right? Now threshold condition, you have to define the minimum and maximum values. That is meant by threshold condition, right? Now threshold condition, for example, in my case, that is greater than 0.17 and less than 0.55. Okay, please note down how to specify the threshold. Once you assign this class, you just have to click over the first condition here, and you have to select from the feature NDVI, right? Uh, Object feature customize, you have to specify the NDVI and you have to select OK. Then you have to specify whatsoever your condition is and click OK. Similarly, you have to specify the second and then you have to click the execute. This makes some sense now, how to apply some set of rule. Similarly, if you can see that you can also use other features as well, right? So for example, if you want to use the geometry feature, you can use those features as well. For example, length to width ratio, you can specify that length to width ratio and specify some numerical value and select OK. This is a way to define basically rules for any of your criteria. Okay, once we have executed our NDVI algorithm in the last step, this type of output you will have. So you can view the classification from here, view the layer, view the classification, and you can also set transparent, non-transparent option from here. This transparent, non-transparent. So what the rule we have defined, threshold for NDVI, what we have defined, based on that threshold, so vegetation cover is mostly it is covered in this classification you have run. So this visualization, it makes some sense now, it's better. Okay, so this is basically a rule, right? Rule set you defined to you have applied and you have extracted some vegetation. Now similarly you can repeat the same process for water, right? You can repeat for bare land, you can repeat for shadow and building. Now important thing for building, that is you can use the length to width ratio. That is very important. You have road, so instead of using the layer value, you can select the geometry value, right? This option. So you can define length to width ratio, and later on in the next lab, if we got some time, so we will use DSM, digital surface model, to extract the buildings more accurately by specifying even the height information, right? So this is all of your lab. You have to perform it first, and then you will have a submission file, a portal that will be created on LMS. You will have 1 week submission time, and meanwhile I will be available on the Microsoft team. Using this you can get in contact with me, or you can even WhatsApp me. I have shared my contact information in this team group we have created. You can WhatsApp me, and we can share your answer your questions. And this is the group which we have created, IDIS teams. Okay, you can download this Microsoft team. Okay, here it is, urban remote sensing online training. I have added all of you here, and I will share this video as well as the software setup as well as the lab manual over here. So hope it will be now very easy for you to perform your lab, and you will have to submit this lab by the next Thursday. Thank you.